is a project built around one specific but highly effective technology that allowed Ducati to become an 8-time World Superbike champion and to win the MotoGP World Championship for the first time. While in 2007 most manufacturers switched to pneumatic valves in an effort to get the most out of the engines reduced by regulations, Ducati remained true to their traditions and the Desmodromic valve drive. Casey Stoner speeds the 800cc bike to an incredible 340 km per hour, sets a new speed record, and becomes the MotoGP champion. And when in that same 2007 the Italians announced the road version of their championship-winning bike named the Desmosedici RR, the whole world held its breath in anticipation of the most powerful motorcycle in history. Now, as is tradition, there will be a brief historical introduction. It is very important because it will answer a question that many die-hard Ducati fans have. Why did the company switch from a 2-cylinder to a 4-cylinder engine configuration in their flagship machines? The decision for Ducati to enter the Premier class was made in the spring of 2001. By that time, the factory had already won 8 titles and 9 Constructors' Cups in World Superbike. The powerful V-twin with a Desmodromic valve system was no longer suitable for the Grand Prix. Although the V-twin had an advantage of almost 10 kilograms over inline 4s and other configurations, the large size of the pistons maintained a high risk of local overheating and engine failure. Moreover, such an engine could not theoretically develop more than 230 horsepower. The engineers specifically chose a 4-cylinder L-shaped engine with a Desmodromic valve drive, with 4 valves per cylinder. As a result, approximately a 989 cubic centimeter engine was created. It was named Desmosedici, Desmo 16, referring to the 16-valve configuration. This started the story of a project that was fascinating from all perspectives. The Italians created a motorcycle that became a star and remained so even in the worst years. And the modern Desmosedici GP21 is simply a masterpiece of engineering design at its peak. By direct analogy with MotoGP, modern Ducati motorcycles feature 4 cylinders to keep up with the simple arms race. The V-twin is not competitive in the market. Racing is in Ducati's blood. And every time you think of the term homologation in relation to motorcycles, the first thing that comes to mind is the factory in Borgo Panigale area of Bologna, Italy. The company has a long history of creating limited edition versions of its high-performance sports machines. There is no doubt that the Italians will undoubtedly release a true Grand Prix replica. Of course, the Japanese could just as easily build a road version of their MotoGP machines, but Ducati is the only manufacturer that has definitely made it as close to the real thing as possible. The terms passion and pride are often used to describe Italy's relationship with its cars, but the Desmosedici RR is a perfect example of why these two words truly and deeply indeed apply to people. A Desmodromic V-shaped 4-cylinder engine with a displacement of 989 cubic centimeters and a gear drive. It is a work of art, especially considering the fact that it was designed and built from scratch. Contrary to popular belief, although the engine is very similar to the GP06 power unit, it is not an exact copy. Instead, it was designed and built specifically for the Desmosedici RR, but naturally, it uses all the experience and developments gained from racing. It delivers 200 horsepower, which today doesn't seem like an impressive figure, but in 2007, no sport bike could boast such a herd. The engine, just like the racing prototype, uses a Desmodromic timing drive. The Desmodromic system not only opened the valves but also closed them, so no springs. This results in all advantages, like the impossibility of the valve meeting the piston and the astonishing engine RPM. Together with the gear drive, this entire mechanical symphony could easily compete with the notorious pneumatics, smoothly revving up to 20,000 revolutions per minute. This is evidenced by Casey Stoner's results in the same 2007. And in general, general, have you seen what Ducati does on the straights? Especially at speeds approaching 300 kilometers per hour, their engines seem to never fade. It's not surprising, as you can find information on the internet that modern Desmosedici engines produce power close to 300 horsepower, and they are still based on the Desmodromic valve drive. In addition to the Desmo, the engine inherited the twin-pulse firing order, which mimics the operation of a V-twin. Everything else, both literally and figuratively, revolves around the engine. It's classic Ducati, where the engine serves as the main load-bearing element, allowing the motorcycle's weight to be reduced to 171 kilograms. This resulted in an impressive power-to-weight ratio for that time. There was a time when only the Bimoto DB7, weighing 160 kilograms and producing 160 horsepower, could achieve a 1-to-1 ratio, reading comments from journalists about how golden that result was. Suspension and brakes, best at that time. It's the first production motorcycle with a MotoGP spec fork. Wait, it's actually the first MotoGP replica for the streets. The Öhlins FG 353P fork, Brembo monoblock brakes, and magnesium wheels. Exceptional components generate exceptional performance. The lightweight motorcycle hit the first 100 in less than 3 seconds and covered a quarter mile in 9.49 seconds at a speed of over 250 kilometers per hour. And this is faster than the officially recognized fastest accelerating production motorcycle, the Kawasaki ZX-14R, which clocks in at 9.78 seconds. Production sport bikes couldn't reach the level of the Desmosedici for many years. It got to the point where magazine editors would just take a 2007 Ducati and pit it against everything available on the market in 2012, creating a sort of comparative test. The Desmo outperformed everyone. The Desmosedici engine served as the inspiration for the Stradale R engine, which was installed in Ducati motorcycles starting with the V4 model. Today, it is the most powerful engine from the Italians, producing 234 GP in the Panigale Superleggera version. In turn, it is capable of kicking the H2R's butt in acceleration up to 300 km per hour. It is undoubtedly the best naturally aspirated piston engine. 1 liter and 16,000 revolutions per minute, that's all I have to say. It's a pity that finding a proper test drive or reading a quality review isn't so easy. Only 1,500 units were produced. But just look at this execution. Yes, the Japanese make excellent motorcycles, probably the best in terms of price and quality. Italy, passion, monumentality is considered in every cast detail of motorcycles like the Desmo. Look at how the exhaust is arranged. It exits where the passenger seat usually is and points straight to the sky. So this is a unique type of exhaust, not under but above the seat. Personally for me, this is one of the most charismatic design elements in modern motorcycles. From the information available in the public domain, it can be concluded that the motorcycle is a bit unstable at idle and low revs, but it has a very smooth power range from 3 to 9,500 RPM. This is the most comfortable operating mode for the engine. Next, the engine power begins to grow exponentially as the Desmo eagerly devours high revs. The notorious Desmodromic system here unleashes the engine's potential to its fullest. No matter what his opponents wrote, thanks to its low weight and chassis, which is almost identical to the GP06 chassis, it takes corners much more easily than the vast majority of sport motorcycles. And flipping the motorcycle from full lean on one side to the other in slow or fast chicanes requires less effort than expected. This indeed indicates that the Desmosedici RR was truly the most powerful and incredibly sport motorcycle of its time. Even the special homologations for superbike racing that Ducati has produced over the years pale in comparison to the Desmosedici RR. The exclusivity and quality of the components were unmatched at the time of release and for many years after. The very fact that Ducati had the ambition and drive to create such a motorcycle speaks volumes about the company's enthusiasm for racing and its commitment to its products. And while everyone was thrilled by the sound of the 1198R at high revs, the distinctive whine from the Desmosedici RR sent chills down their spines. I remember reading a foreign review translated in our magazine when I was 14 years old, and I couldn't understand why it cost so much money. How little I understood back then. You know, we are living in very interesting times today, when the possibility of walking into a motorcycle showroom and riding a 200 horsepower superbike is no longer an unattainable dream or something out of reach like supercharged, purely racing specimens. If only there were money. But even against this backdrop, the idea of a machine with a 690 cubic centimeter engine, 220 horsepower, and weighing just 129 kilograms that you can go out and buy seems a bit far-fetched. But that's what the Crighton CR700W is, thanks to its advanced rotary engine, by the way, unique among modern motorcycles. Essentially, the Crighton CR700W is the ultimate evolution of the Norton 588 racing motorcycles, which led Steve Hislop to victory in the senior TT races in 1992 on the Isle of Man, and also propelled athletes like Steve Spray, Trevor Nation, and Ian Simpson to championships in the UK from 1989 to 1994. Brian Crighton, a three-time British champion in the 50cc class, was the mastermind of the Norton team then. They took advantage of a loophole in the rules that simply did not account for the ability of rotary engines to generate immense power from a small volume. Notice how effortlessly the riders on the black Nortons outpaced their competitors on the straight sections.
And Ray Stringer on the Norton, and Steve Spray goes through. There's the RC Hunter, but look at the Norton go, and there goes the second one. Well, there the Nortons go through to take the lead in the race of aces, but a lot of smoke coming out of that bike.
The power of the rotary engine, despite all its advantages of being smaller, lighter, and capable of higher revs, had its own limitations in the form of extremely low reliability. But technology has come a long way, and although rotary engines may not have a place in the electric future, Crighton has developed a sports motorcycle that serves a broader purpose today. For the last 12 years, Crighton has been working with Gil Cardoz, the founders and owners of Rotran Power Ltd., and the lead engineer Shamoon Karashi on developing a next-gen twin-rotor engine with a volume of 700cc. They used the latest developments, the most advanced materials, and the most modern methods of precision engineering to create the completely new CR700W. With a volume of 690 cubic centimeters instead of the previous 588 Nortons, along with modern material technologies including wear-resistant silicon nitride ceramic seals, the two-section rotary engine has only 3 moving parts, weighs 24 kilograms, and measures just over 33 centimeters in diameter. Even with the attached 6-speed Nova Transmissions gearbox, it weighs only 43 kilograms. Moreover, the rotary engine, due to its compactness, offers better conditions for placement in the frame and can be installed more centrally, providing improved maneuverability and stability in handling.
Yeah, the back wheel's spinning, yeah.
So Brian, it's spinning because it can't get traction. Oh my god.
Unless the clutch is slipping, but I don't think the clutch should slip.
The peak power of the engine at 220 horsepower, accompanied by a huge torque of 142 nanometers at 9,500 revolutions per minute, providing a power-to-weight ratio greater than that of MotoGP and Formula One engines. For comparison, the most powerful NA F1 engine from Bolito Ferrari develops 309 HP per liter at an insane 18,500 revs per minute, and the latest MotoGP bikes produce about 300 horsepower per liter. The power of the CR700W is equivalent to 319 horsepower per liter. Just imagine. The engine retained a unique racing technology developed by Brian, which can be translated as an exhaust ejector. It increased engine efficiency based on the Venturi effect. I've already provided more details on this in one of my earlier stories about the production Norton F1. You can click on the hint at the top right. Crighton says that special attention was paid to the gearbox, which is known to be problematic due to additional stresses when connected to rotary engines. Nova Transmissions have developed a 6-speed gearbox with a slipper clutch. The chassis will look familiar to anyone who has seen the later generation of Norton rotary racing motorcycles from the 90s, with the same frame and swing arm as the originals made by Spondon. It is made of 7000 series aluminum. The motor oil reservoir is integrated into the main longerons for additional weight reduction, and triple clamps for the front fork are available with various offsets according to the driver's preferences. The fairing, meanwhile, resembles the Norton NRV 588, a brief revival of the rotary idea that emerged in 2009 and was initially intended for participation in TT races. The old Norton expanded concept also allows adjusting the swing arm pivot angle. Among other components, the wheels are made of carbon fiber, with a choice of Uhlens or B-tube suspension, as well as Brembo brakes that meet MotoGP specifications. Crighton said, "In many ways, the CR700W is the culmination of my career and embodies the best of my engineering experience. And I believe that as a consequence, the ideal racing motorcycle was brought into existence." Alex Head, Chief Executive Officer of Rotor and Power, adds, "The CR700W is a unique motorcycle masterpiece and a true work of art, born out of Brian's passion and genius. Surpasses any other motorcycle engine globally in power, whether road Ducati Superleggera 5.4, track-focused BMW HP4, even supercharged Kawasaki H2R left behind." The characteristics speak for themselves, however. Despite the numbers, this is far from the high-strung racing engine that will require to be overhauled after every race event. Instead, thanks to the relatively low speeds for a rotary engine, materials with ultra-low friction coefficients, and unique internal geometry, it amazes with its reliability. The engine's structural components are cast from a high-strength aluminum alloy LFM24 and processed at the factory. All wearing surfaces of the engine are coated with molybdenum and Nicosil, providing lightweight, low friction, and high durability. The main eccentric driveshaft is made of cryogenically stabilized steel alloy EN36. In other words, it will confidently last a full season before requiring internal inspection. Impressive engineering figures naturally continue with the impressive price of the CR700W. In the United Kingdom, this track machine, not intended for road use, starts at £85,000. At today's rates, this is just over $116,000. And only 25 units will be hand-assembled by Crighton himself based on Rotran. Although official data remains scarce currently, videos posted on the Crighton racing page in May of the previous year demonstrate a stripped-down bike on a dynamometer stand, screaming its way into the red zone. A brand new racing motorcycle with a rotary engine was unveiled at an event at the British National Motorcycle Museum on October 30th, 2021. The machine has already attracted a lot of attention, and a certain Peter Hickman responded to a tweet, expressing the assumption that he has no doubt it could become the first sports bike to complete a lap at an average speed of 140 miles per hour or 225 kilometers per hour on the TT track on the Isle of Man, where he currently holds the record. Maybe this is a type of clue. And ultimately the statements of Mason Law, the champion of the 2020 British Super Cup. Riding the Crighton is a phenomenal experience. The raw power of the motorcycle simply blows your mind. The sensation from this machine is similar to the feeling of leaving the runway in the cockpit of an F-35 fighter jet. It has the power of MotoGP prototypes, but also a torquey twist. What could modern two-stroke superbikes be like? Quite an interesting question, to which, nevertheless, there are a couple of answers today. These would be virtually weightless 200 horsepower monsters making your blood run cold. Today, two-stroke engines are already a part of history, as in the not-so-distant past, due to the complaints of environmentalists, they were made so small and low-powered that we can barely remember them. Nevertheless, two-strokes dominated Grand Prix racing from 1975 when Giacomo Agostini winning on a Yamaha until 2001 when Valentino Rossi became last world champion in the 500 cubic centimeter class on a Honda NSR 500. In fact, two-stroke engines once actually pushed four-stroke engines out of every GP class. Their undeniable advantages were low weight, incredibly high specific power, and simplicity. Even the mighty Honda, which challenged the rapidly developing two-stroke engines with its four-stroke NR 500 high-revving oval piston know-how, was forced to make a sharp turnaround and develop its own two-stroke NSR 500 engines. Ever since MotoGP regulations banned two-stroke engines, fans' desire to have a true Grand Prix replica in their garage, one that could be taken to the track, and also for a quick ride to the coffee shop around the corner, has only increased. Perhaps now, it's also driven by nostalgia. This desire was decided to be fulfilled by a company called Ronex Dresden in Germany. Their offering, the Ronex 500 model, clearly draws inspiration from the final era of powerful 500 cubic centimeter two-stroke engines. And yes, it really does look like the NSR 500. They built only 46 of them, which is quite sad because we, ordinary mortals, will most likely never ride or even see one. A very rare thing. The technical specs, the bike is also not far from the NSR. The engine has a capacity of 499 cubic centimeters. It is an 80-degree V4 with two counter-rotating crankshafts. It features a fuel injection system and a 6-speed cassette gearbox. It produces 160 horsepower. This is slightly less than the 180, 200 horsepower that the last of the 500cc NSR engines produced. But this is what can be allowed on the roads. It lasts longer than a racing prototype designed for a race. The only thing that can dampen the nostalgia for the golden era of two-strokes is the price tag of 100,000 euros. As usual, let us know in the comments what you would buy for that money, and we move on. If you really want to definitely ride a modern, unprecedented two-stroke bullet, the incredibly Swiss company Suter will sell you one. If you can afford to spend over 100,000 euros on an expensive two-wheeled toy, the MMX 500 model will give you something no other motorcycle can. Those memories of the glorious era of two-stroke GP. The motorcycle is equipped with a two-stroke, four-cylinder V engine with a displacement of 576 cubic centimeters. The maximum power of the fantastic power unit is 195 horsepower at 13,000 revolutions per minute. The dry weight of the racing machine is only 127 kilograms. The power-to-weight ratio of the Suter MMX 500 is 1.53 horsepower per kilogram. Yes, it falls slightly short of the rotary edge of the NCR 700W from the previous release, but the horsepower per liter rating is clearly higher here. This two-stroke engine is not archaic. Like the Ronex, it is also equipped with electronic fuel injection, and also with carbon reed valves on the intake and power valves with electric actuators in the intake ports of the cylinders. The exhaust system for the gas pressure in the resonators is an Akrapovic system, made of titanium alloy. It features a 6-speed cassette-type gearbox. This design allows diagnosing and replacing parts without removing the engine, which, as we know, is especially convenient for maintenance on the racetrack. The Suter clutch, a dry multi-plate clutch. The MMX 500 duplex frame is made from a single aluminum billet using milling. It features a fully adjustable front fork and an inverted type gear with an adjustable steering column angle. The geometry of the rear swing arm can also be changed using replaceable linkage arms. For braking, there are two 280mm brake discs with 4-piston Brembo calipers at the front and a 218mm brake disc with a 2-piston caliper at the rear. The fuel tanks and fairings are entirely made of carbon fiber. At the buyer's request, the bike can be equipped with Aussie magnesium alloy wheels instead of aluminum wheels. The maximum speed of the Suter MMX 500 is 310 km per h. A unique Swiss motorcycle was released in an ultra-limited edition of 16 units out of the Plan 99. Its price at the time of release was 120,000 Swiss francs, or about 123,000 US dollars. Now one costs 150,000 euros. The price is astronomical, but it's cheaper than $184,000 for the Honda RC 213 VS. However, for Honda, the inflated price was a marketing ploy. Here, the high price is due to advanced technologies, I suppose. The rotary Crighton also definitely falls into this price category indeed. What do you think? Are racing technologies worth such big money? Write in the comments section below, absolutely. The speed of the Desmosedici RR plot. Its engine was ahead of its time. How to achieve 350 km per hour from an 800 cubic centimeter engine. The only motorcycle with a unique pneumatic valve technology, exactly like that on the MotoGP prototypes. But this is not just a replica of a Grand Prix newcomer, it is something more. The RSV4 FWGP carries a significant part of the story of how Aprilia once forever changed the royal race. The RSV4 from Aprilia has demonstrated outstanding success in racing since its first release in 2009. In a short period of time, the Italian V4 has won 8 world titles in the World Superbike Championship and secured the FIM Cup title once again in the 2015 season. Starting in 2016, Aprilia shifted its focus from World Superbike to launching its young MotoGP program, as they last competed in the top class more than 10 years ago. Aprilia Racing is the most advanced platform of the Piaggio Group, aimed at developing innovations and racing experiments. In 2016, it launched the Factory Works program to make championship motorcycle technologies available to everyone who wants to participate in top-level championships, or for those who simply want to have an RSV4 with uncompromising track performance. The program includes the implementation of a range of motorcycles developed in accordance with the regulations of the Superstock and Superbike championships, featuring various levels of modifications to the chassis, electronics, and engine. The RSV4 FWGP from Aprilia is our hero today. It is the top bike in the Factory Works lineup. This advanced track motorcycle features unique pneumatic valves, just like those on MotoGP prototypes. And here, of course, it is worth discussing the pneumatic camshaft separately, as it appeared in Grand Prix racing precisely thanks to Aprilia. At the end of 2001, the old 500 cubic centimeters class of fierce two-strokes, often referred to as the golden era of Grand Prix racing, went down in history, making way for the new MotoGP. The new class of leader-class four-stroke motorcycles allowed for more freedom in developing new prototypes, so Aprilia registered a motorcycle based on the previous RSW2. The RS3 Cube was conceived with the aim of significantly increasing engine power, an element that was a defect in the model used in 2000. Developed by engineer Luigi Delegna with the help of the Brit Viscosword, who contributed to the RSV 1000 V-twin. It was equipped with a liquid-cooled, four-stroke, inline three-cylinder engine. The choice of a three-cylinder engine is primarily due to its low weight and compact size. It was also important for Aprilia to have something that set it apart from its competitors. The team's then boss, Jan Vidouin, said, "I don't think the Japanese will ever make an inline three." At that time, MotoGP rules allowed the use of 3- and 5-cylinder engines. The 3 cylinders were allowed to be 10 kilograms lighter, and the historical 3-cylinder units are a European concept.
Additionally, the 3-cylinder engine has a displacement of 999 cubic centimeters, 330 cubic centimeters of displacement per cylinder, which is very close to the 10-cylinder, 3.5-liter engines of Formula Racing. Thus, in April, they were able to use technologies and parts from Formula One, which greatly simplified the work. This decision, along with the experience gained from the previous RSW2 and the 2-cylinder RSV Mealy that participated in the World Superbike Championship, allowed the racing department in Noailles to create a motorcycle that is very compact and lightweight, reportedly, on par with the old RSW2, using advanced electronics and a pneumatic valve timing mechanism that had previously only been used in Formula One racing. The RS3 Cube was able to deliver 240 horsepower, making it the most powerful motorcycle in MotoGP history. By the way, after that, all MotoGP participants gradually switched to pneumatic systems, which allowed them to rev liter engines up to 20,000 RPM in qualifying races. The only competitor that could challenge such machines was Ducati with its Desmosedici camshaft. Ducati is the only team that has refused to use pneumatic technology. The pneumatic camshaft system used compressed air instead of springs in a classic internal combustion engine. I have already explained this in more detail in one of my earlier videos, where the entire process is described from start to finish. The video will be linked in the top right corner and in the description. In short, compared to traditional spring valve distribution, pneumatic valves offer more precise control over the valves. This results in absurd power figures at an already insane level of the red zone. The RS3 Cube made its debut in MotoGP in 2002 under the control of French rider Regis Laconi. The first race in Japan ended with an 8th place finish, which would have remained the best result of the season, but the same result was later repeated in Mugello. However, in subsequent races, the Italian motorcycle immediately showed its numerous shortcomings. The Aprilia RS3 Cube motorcycle raced in MotoGP from 2002 to 2004. The performance characteristics of the motorcycle were more than exemplary, and it was truly advanced technology. But there were also significant problems with the suspension and the computer. Riders Colin Edwards and Noriyuki Heiga, who competed on the motorcycle, found it unpredictable. In 2003, the Aprilia RS3 Cube was involved in 28 crashes. Heiga crashed the motorcycle twice during a single event.
Back in April, the EDM considered building a production version of the MotoGP bike, but when the RS3 Cube failed, all plans evaporated. Who needs an unmanageable motorcycle? Multiple problems were associated with the engine control electronics and the traction control system. The riders did not like how the computer interfered with their driving style, plus the response was extremely unpredictable. Additionally, the chassis and suspension of the RS3 Cube were also far from ideal. The lightweight aluminum frame and Elan suspension are likely examples of high technology on their own, but together they did not work properly. Simply put, it was a super powerful but unmanageable rocket. In fact, the RS3 Cube could not come close to its minimum weight limit. The engine required a balancing shaft, was filled with compressed air for the pneumatic valve system, had numerous radiators, and a sufficient amount of electronics. And all of this adds weight. The power was there, but the bike was excessively brutal and simply spat its riders off the saddle. But what characteristics did this motorcycle actually deliver? Edwards and Heiga have repeatedly set record lap times. On the straights, the motorcycle simply left no chance for its competitors, and the sound of this high-revving inline triple is still considered the best in the history of MotoGP by fans. And here's the surprise: the fastest on the track at the moment is Noriyuki Heiga, who you can see on your screens. He set the fastest lap time, 1 minute 36.6 seconds, which is half a second faster than Valentino Rossi's time. And as soon as he remains in 8th position. After the failure, Aprilia left MotoGP for a long time, but its technology remained. The RSV4 FWGP is one of 4 models in the Factory Works lineup with different specifications, and is the very replica of the GP that the company envisioned 20 years ago. The FWGP features a V4 engine from Aprilia. Taken from the RS GP15, it has a cylinder diameter of 81 mm and the same pneumatic valve timing that guarantees power exceeding 250 horsepower. One of its components can be seen on the bike with the naked eye. The compressed air cylinder, located on the right side of the engine, serves as a reservoir for the metered supply of air directly to the pneumatic valves. The The system is very demanding in terms of maintenance and precise control, so track days are only allowed with the accompaniment of the Aprilia engineering team, which is included in the cost of the motorcycle. This way, its buyers will receive truly special service. They are invited to the headquarters in Nail to discuss the contract, as well as to choose the configuration that best suits their needs and to discuss the budget with the engineers. During the preparation of the bike, they will receive real-time work reports, a dedicated phone line, and an address that they can use at any time, which will subsequently provide information and technical support. At the client's request, the bike will be delivered personally by Aprilia racing engineers, and it can be refueled in Nail. The customer will also have the right to receive a branded Aprilia racing leather jacket and a pass for the entire MotoGP weekend, as well as an invitation to participate in an Aprilia track day, where Aprilia racing engineers will be able to customize the bike to the client's racing preferences and provide the best possible technical support, allowing the client to fully experience the technical superiority of the mechanical and electronic potential of the RSV4 FWGP. In any case, an engineer from Aprilia Racing will always be at the track so that the client can take full advantage of all the capabilities of the FWGP. The price in the US at the time of release is more affordable compared to motorcycles from previous releases, at just $83,000. This price includes all support from Aprilia, please do not forget. Thus, Aprilia Racing was the first to make all technologies developed for MotoGP available, accompanied by a full range of exclusive services before, during, and after. After the sale, the goal is not only to make this experience truly unique and unparalleled, but also to allow the customer to fully utilize the potential of the RSV4 FWGP. This is the first motorcycle on Saturday's sale that offers incredible technologies such as a pneumatic valve. Honda, I remind you, refused to use pneumatic valves in the RC213 VS model, much to the disappointment of many enthusiasts. In other words, the RSV4 FWGP is the real key to the Privy Club for affluent individuals. This motorcycle is also very symbolic and, as I see it, actually carries much more meaning than just a MotoGP motorcycle put up for sale.
A true MotoGP racing machine with headlights, turn signals, mirrors, and a license plate holder. But the Honda RC213 VS, choked down to a pitiful 99 horsepower, elicited nothing but laughter. Fans waited for this model for many years, envisioning it as a replacement for the outdated CBR 1000R, and they were seriously disappointed by the company's inexplicable actions. No one could have imagined that the long-awaited Honda RC213 VS was merely part of a brilliant marketing strategy by the Japanese giant, which was actually looking much deeper. After the fanfare surrounding the initial announcement, the Honda RC213 VS street bike received rather mixed reviews, as headlines proclaiming it to be the latest and greatest. The fastest motorcycle in MotoGP history for public roads were quickly overshadowed. Most of the news following the initial press reaction focused on the unexpectedly low power and the extremely inflated price, even considering that it is such an exclusive and exotic thing. One of the reasons for the failure was that the Honda RC213 VS was one of the most anticipated motorcycles among MotoGP fans, bike enthusiasts, and Honda loyalists for many years. Rumors about the possibility of releasing a Honda MotoGP motorcycle for the street have circulated among V4 fans since the legendary sport touring VFR 800 was replaced in 2009 with something that was not fully understood. Fans are still waiting for a sporty leader V4 from the Japanese, but let's go back a bit. Rumor mill began to gain momentum when several Japanese magazines started showing images of what such a bike would look like. Eventually, Honda confirmed that a prototype is in development. And at the end of 2014 at EICMA, we finally saw the bike in the flesh. The model was presented, and everyone already knew most of the details, except for one important piece of information that was of great significance: the price. This price was announced at $184,000 US, 10 times more expensive than their then flagship 1000RR. Although the motorcycle seemed to be everything Honda fans had hoped for, the high price disappointed those who were hoping to become the owners of the next leader in the heated war of leader bikes at that time.
That's like
Honda was left scratching their heads, wondering why their fans were so disappointed when they had just unveiled Marc Marquez's bike with headlights, turn signals, and a license plate holder. As noted by their public relations department, this is the first time that Honda has offered its factory-level racing weapon to the market. Honda has never before released purebred racing motorcycles to the market, and the reason is that their position has always been that Honda does not sell its secrets. Only one mechanic from the MotoGP team was allowed to take a peek inside the magical seamless transmission that propelled Marc Marquez to the top of the podium. By the way, the road version is equipped with a standard manual transmission. The Honda HRC division was known for some quite significant limited production homologations, ranging from the CB1100R to the iconic RC30 and RC45. But until now, it has always used street motorcycles as a basis for transforming them into racing bikes, rather than the other way around. By creating the Honda RC213 VS, they have turned this model upside down and will sell their best racing machine directly to the public. Only part of its potential will be limited and will be available for an additional $12,000, provided that you promise to use it only on the track. Thus, the version imported, for example, to the United States will have a power output of only 99 horsepower. The reason for this is somewhat interesting, as it gives us insight into how Honda thinks as a company. Honda claims that this is due to the decibel restrictions on street-legal vehicles and the limited space available for accommodating adequately sized mufflers. The factory-installed exhaust system is simply not physically capable of meeting the requirements of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Therefore, they simply limited the redline to a ridiculous 9,400 RPM. In other markets, with more lenient regulations, this figure will only be reduced by a few thousand RPM, hence the figure of 160 horsepower. The sports version increased the output to 215 horsepower in both cases, which, considering the dry weight of the motorcycle at 160 kilograms, is quite a good figure. But again, let's return to the definition itself. A MotoGP replica for modifications. Is it some kind of replica or a real MotoGP race bike for the street if the racing RC213V has 256 horsepower instead of 215? Accordingly, the pneumatic valve timing system, which Honda had been developing since 2005, was removed. Combining the price and these power figures, it seems impossible not to be angry at Honda for such a thrilling trick, but there may be a method to this madness. Honda has often acted prudently, employing methods that were not immediately understood, but ultimately strengthened their position in the history of motorcycles. The purpose of this particular machine is not to sell it to those who are only concerned with power and price. The essence of this motorcycle is that it is a special amalgamation. It is not a street motorcycle. It was never intended to fulfill this duty. It is simply a necessity for the role that this motorcycle is meant to perform. This role may have been to occupy the informational podiums ahead of the debut of the V4 series models from the company. Just like it was with the H2R, after which there was a boom of turbocharged models at Kawasaki. But as we see today, something in Honda's plans has changed after all. Otherwise, it's just a question, why? But there is an answer. If you want to win all sorts of racing titles, you would do so by equipping the best teams in each series with your MotoGP bike, which wins championships. Such a price for the bike was set to deter collectors. $200,000 for a low-powered exhibit for the corner of your living room is ridiculous for everyone except barons like Lord Hesketh. $200,000 seems utterly absurd for the average consumer. Nevertheless, $200,000 for a world-class racing team is not too much for a theoretically race-ready machine that could win right out of the box. They overvalued it with the right intention. In the case of people who have more money than common sense, they took all the titles of the most powerful, best motorcycle in MotoGP history for a road that typically has such a bike. They tried to make it unappealing in order to attract as many people as possible who would actually profit from their investments by placing them on the podiums around the world. Honda is huge. They have a lot of money to develop what they want, and they remain very conservative, usually being the last to bring their new ideas to market. They act like sleeping giants, possessing the power to bring most ideas to life, but they cannot do so without extreme necessity. This method is described as a very Japanese method, and all 4 Asian brands demonstrate similar strategies.
Over the past 50 years, typically about once a decade, it has successfully created artificial hype around its products and shown the world that even if it doesn't make them, it still has the ability to develop something that goes beyond common understanding. When Honda first arrived on the Isle of Man, they developed a 4-stroke, inline 4-cylinder racing motorcycle and then showcased it on the mountain course, astonishing everyone. In the late 1980s, after resolving the issues that arose during the development of their V4 architecture, they did the same with the RC30 and RC45. At the very least, the CNR 750, with its oval pistons, is worth mentioning. They were all racing models and unimaginably expensive for that time. This is what they have done again with the RC213 VS, according to their logic. But attempts to use this wild machine in street racing can be counted on one hand. New Zealander Bruce Anstey is one of the few who tried to challenge the RC213 VS against the modified superbikes from BMW, Kawasaki, and others. Anstey showed rather average results at the Isle of Man in 2016 and 2017, finishing no higher than 5th place. However, in the same year of 2017, he wrote a victory in the history of the Ulster Grand Prix. The well-known 8-time Macau race winner took on a new challenge in 2018 with the Honda RC213 VS, and although he was the fastest in the free practice sessions, he had to follow in 2nd place behind Hickman. In the end, Rudder was left only disappointed with his results. It seems this time it didn't work out. Honda's brilliant plan failed, just like the motorcycle itself. Unwanted by collectors, consumers, and racers, it turned out to be unnecessary for anyone. Against this backdrop, it would have been more successful to take 3H2R, a pair of 2-stroke monsters Ronex 500. Such messages could be found on the forums. And yet, there is one record to the credit of the 213 VS. The Honda RC213 VS has become the most expensive motorcycle in the history of Japanese auctions. The auction house Bingo and the largest Japanese online trading platform, Yahoo Auctions, conducted a joint sale of a 2016 Honda RC213 VS motorcycle for a record-breaking $237,000, surpassing the previous world record held by a 1968 Honda CB750, which was sold at auction by the British auction house H&H for $221,600 3 years ago. According to experts, this is yet another auction record, a harbinger of rising prices for all collectible Japanese motorcycles. The RC213 VS has remained a disappointment for fans who were waiting for this motorcycle as a sort of 4-cylinder version of the 1000RR. However, it had a slightly different purpose, more global, noble, which, unfortunately, was understood by only a few. But a giant like Honda will achieve its goals sooner or later, and it can be confidently said that this is not the end of the story.
Few people know that just a few years before the iconic S1000RR appeared, the only and main weapon in the world of motorsport was a model built around the signature Boxer engine, the most powerful Boxer engine in history. Conceptually, its roots go back to the distant 90s when BMW was trying to revive the former glory of the Boxer on the world superbike stage. You know why you are here, because this is the most exclusive, unique, rare, and iconic sports motorcycle from the Bavarian manufacturer. It is officially considered that the HP2 Sport model is a logical continuation of the successful R1200S model. And at first glance, this is indeed the case, as its main components and dimensions are the same. But the heads of the HP2 Sport already feature 2 camshafts each, and it is actually built on the base of a racing motorcycle that participated in the 24-hour endurance race at Le Mans in 2007. But another important point. True enthusiasts know that BMW was developing a high-performance racing motorcycle based on a Boxer engine back in the 90s for participation in the World Superbike. And it seems that the idea of reviving the iconic Boxer engine dates back to those times, a time when the company, after a 15-year hiatus, tried to restore the former glory of Boxer engines. You will be able to understand why I think this way by watching a separate video dedicated to BMW's unique development.
In the meantime, we will try to find out if the company accomplished this task with the HP2 Sport. So, the HP2 Sport is built on the base of a 2007 endurance racing motorcycle from the factory team BMW Motorrad. The only difference is the presence of a catalytic converter and the absence of 7 horsepower in the civilian motorcycle. But the street bike is even 3 kilograms lighter than the racing prototype, thanks to the absence of a heavier quick wheel change system and a smaller fuel tank. The endurance version was radically redesigned compared to the standard R1200S. The main difference, which was also carried over to the HP, was the new cylinder heads with dual overhead camshafts and 4 valves per cylinder. Thanks to this, the new Boxer engine truly loved high revs. Its power increased to an unprecedented 140 horsepower for such an engine, and the sound at high revs turned into a true melody for fans of Boxer BMW engines. And despite the fact that the Bavarian motorcycle still had on average 40 horsepower less than its competitors, in 2007, after a huge break from racing, the team performed quite well. A victory in the open class and a very respectable 16th place overall at the 30th Candy 24-hour race at Le Mans marked a grand return for BMW to competitions, after many years of absence. Throughout 2007, the team participated in 3 more endurance races with similarly good results. BMW decided to immortalize such significant events and the invaluable experience gained in the HP2 Sport model, which in essence would not just be an amalgamated racing replica, but would become a true tribute to the signature Boxer engine, a very unique machine. Thanks to the sharp design by young Swedish designer Ola Stenegard, the HP2 Sport maximally conveys the forms of its racing protege and has a truly exclusive look. The lightweight fairing is made entirely of carbon fiber. Let me remind you, it's 2008. It is as elegant as it can possibly be. It hides the most combat-ready Boxer engine in history. The canonical 2-cylinder Boxer has a displacement of 1170 cubic centimeters and an incredible peak power of 133 horsepower for this type of engine. Just a reminder that racer Ernst Henny had to resort to a turbocharger in his record-setting R37 just to touch the 100 horsepower mark. And here we have a naturally aspirated engine. It is evident that the new dual-cam cylinder heads played a significant role in this, which is a first in the history of BMW's Boxer engines. Large diameter valves are positioned at an 11-degree angle, promoting optimal swirl and improved combustion of the fuel mixture. Forged maul pistons and lightweight connecting rods, combined with carbon valve covers and air oil cooling, allowed the engine weight to be kept at 45 kilograms, which is much lighter than any liquid-cooled V-twin engine. The oil coolers are located in the nose section of the fairing. The exhaust goes under the engine to avoid reducing the already limited clearance in turns due to the engine layout. Additionally, the engine is well balanced in terms of vibrations, but the best in the history of the company, the Boxer engine also played the role of the main stressed element. Steel tubular subframes connect the engine with the front and rear suspension, which are also found only on BMW motorcycles. The rear subframe is a self-supporting component made entirely of carbon fiber. It weighs only 2 kilograms. The complex air duct system integrated into the subframe is designed to dissipate heat from the elegant muffler under the rear seat. It, in turn, perfectly complements the already fantastic appearance of the motorcycle, considering the unusual components on which this machine is built. The suspension of the motorcycle should also be considered unusual. Yes, it is common for BMW motorcycles, but you won't find it on any other sport bike. Of course, we're talking about the signature telelever paralever. The combination of telelever paralever gives the HP2 Sport an unprecedented level of comfort for a sport bike. The suspension components, the best on the market, include Marzocchi telescopic forks and a pair of adjustable alines made exclusively for this motorcycle. Contributing to comfort are also the fully adjustable footpegs and controls with eccentric mounts, plus the height-adjustable handlebars. The HP2 Sport is suitable for riders of absolutely any build. We will learn more about the behavior of the sport bike with such a suspension on the track a bit later. For now, it is worth mentioning once again the battle for weight in this Bavarian machine. Its dry weight is only 178 kilograms. The lightweight engine and chassis are complemented by ultralight PEV-M aluminum wheels with the same spoke pattern as the racing prototype. The brakes, Brembo monoblock, are installed on the telelever for the first time. ABS is also optionally available. The power is managed by a 6-speed Getrag transmission with higher gear ratios than the standard R1200S. And here, innovations are also present. The HP2 Sport is the world's first civilian motorcycle equipped with a quickshifter, allowing for upshifts without using the clutch or rolling off the throttle. The instrument panel on the motorcycle is designed in MotoGP style with the so-called 2D data collection feature. Simple and straightforward. The two main modes, road and race, are switched on the handlebar. The first mode displays parameters such as speed, engine RPM, time, and mileage. Second, it provides essential track information such as lap times, maximum speed achieved during the race, number of gear changes per lap, and similar data. All information is recorded and can be transferred to a PC through a special connector. Moreover, with the help of a computer, you can reconfigure the instrument panel itself, programming it to display the information you consider important. I repeat, it was the year 2008. Just think about the motorcycles from other companies that were being produced at that time. You are looking at an absolutely exotic motorcycle, exclusive and unusual. Yet it adheres to the brand's standards, made from the best components on the market, in many ways the first and only one. Only one important question remains: how does the motorcycle behave where it is supposed to be, at least occasionally, according to its creators on the racetrack? In fact, there are far fewer surprises here than in the motorcycle itself. Yes, the telelever and par lever impose some limitations when cornering at low speeds. It requires getting used to and understanding how it works, but all test riders unanimously claim that such a suspension handles well. At least, that's how it feels. It's no worse than the classic. This can be confirmed by the results in Le Mans and other competitions where the prototype of this motorcycle competed. Even such a suspension has its undeniable advantages. For example, the extremely stable braking allows for later and more confident deceleration. After all, the magic of the Bavarians keeps everything in shape at any speed and at any angle. A testament to how good the motorcycle really is can be seen in the fact that, for example, in England, at the time of its release, all 90 units were sold out through pre-orders. These motorcycles are rare, and there are few on the streets simply because that was the company's original intention. According to the head of development, the HP2 Sport was not meant to be on every corner. We wanted people to pay attention to it with its appearance. The HP2 Sport delighted fans around the world, allowing them to touch the racing history of BMW's Boxer engines. They say that their dream has come true, and anyone who gets behind its handlebars will instantly become a fan of Boxers. Although it may not compare to its liquid-cooled competitors, it is one of the coolest BMW motorcycles and definitely the best Boxer engine in history.